Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Okay, I'm very happy to welcome you here today to the Distinguished Poets Series at Passaic County Community College. I am Maria Gillen, and I'm very fortunate to have today Tony Medina with us to give a reading and to talk to us. Tony was born in the South Bronx, raised in the Throgs Neck Housing project, and is a veteran of the United States Army. Okay, recently appointed Associate Chair and Director of Creative Writing in the Department of Literature and Writing at Howard University. Tony Medina holds a master's and PhD from Binghamton University, SUNY. A multi-genre author, editor of 20 of 5 award-winning books for adults and young people, Medina's work appeared in over 160 anthologies and journals, including 7 Steps to Heaven Haiku, and I've Got the COVID Blues, featured in the Academy of American Poets Poem of the Day. Among Medina's recent titles are Black Lives Matter anthology, Resisting Arrest, Poems to Stretch the Sky anthology, Death with Occasional Smiling Poetry, 13 Ways of Looking at a Black Boy children's book, Am Alfonso Jones graphic novel, Che Colé fiction, and his Gaza suite, Because the Sky, published by Sable Books in 2024. His other titles include Serious Trouble, Poems Selected, Poems New and Everywhere Drums, Poets from Black Arts to Black Lives Matter, co-edited with Mudiwa Pettus, as well as a hybrid collection of poetry featuring fiction, poetry and art. Rock the Bells for Hip Hop are forthcoming. Also, I have to say, I have to mention one of my favorite books by Tony. My Old Man Was Always on the Lam. You've got to try to find that book. Let's welcome Tony Medina.
Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome, Tony. It's so good to see you again.
Just to let everyone know that I studied with Maria about, over 22 years ago at Binghamton University, where under her tutelage and her directorship, I was able to get my master's degree and my PhD and leave there with a Distinguished Dissertation Award and a job at Howard University. So I've been there, 22 years now I've been here?
Yeah, now you're a full professor.
Yeah, that means I'm full of it. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't.
So I'll read this first one for you. And it's nice that you have this reading in this workshop series on Zoom so that many people are unable to be there because of health conditions or other situations that they're able to chime in. So this one is what put us on Zoom for the most part. It's called I've Got the COVID Blues. And poems will just determine how they want to be presented. So this one has a voice of its own. I've got the COVID blues. Hazmat outfit to read the news. I got that damn viral blues. Mystifying, perspiring, invisible shit blowing through the wind like yesterday's news blues. I can't think, breathe, or snooze. I got the rumble, chest rattly bubble gut blues. I've been sanitized, ostracized, hydrogen peroxide, cleaner than hospital sheet blues. My tears are sterilized, my fears capsized, spilling out over my broke bedtime blues. So much so, I'm afraid to read the news. I got the COVID-19 stockpile body bag blues, them refrigerated truck blues, them Roto-Rooter blues, them hack and wheeze, double sneeze, Vicks Vapor Rub, Robitussin Preparation H, body ache, earthquake, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha blues. I've got them we wear the mask blues, them hand sanitizer, hydroxychloroquine, booze blues, them broke heel hole in the soul blues, squeaky wheel lungs like shredded wheat blues. I got them lockdown, shutdown, god awful blues, them loveless, touchless, cold sheet blues. I got it real bad, them blues. My head is heavy as a brick. I can't sleep. I'm scared to get sick. I'm so paranoid, I can't stop my eye twitch. Wake up in a hyperventilated sweat blues. I got some Hail Mary full of grace, garlic string around your neck. Get thee behind me, Satan blues. Them TB, smallpox, blanket, diphtheria, typhoid Mary, love in the time of cholera blues. Them Bruegel, Triumph of Death, Black Lungs Matter, Black Orpheus, Peach Schnapps, Dr. Schnabel, Von Rom, Beak Nose, Bleary-Eyed, Cloak and Swagger, Death with occasional smiling blues. I got them backwater fever swamp, Florida water, Espiritu Santos, Tuskegee. What had happened was anti-vax, death be not proud, snot nose, sit and shiver, novena, reincarnation, take it all back, blues. Thank you. So I don't know who I'm speaking to in the world. I know that there are workshop folks here, but I'm just going to take it and run. This next poem I wrote last semester. I think it was around the second or third week of classes. And it was around, I think it was like September 11th. And I just realized that everybody in that class, besides other than myself, was not born before September 11th, 2001. So I was just shocked and dismayed simultaneously. So I wrote this poem, and just like I've got the COVID blues poem takes on a voice of his own. This one kind of takes on the voice of his own because it has taken on the voice of my first college professor at Baruch College, who happened to be a legendary figure at the time, and I didn't even know it when I first enrolled, of course, Dr. Addison Gale Jr. And he used to just regale us with all of these stories about Jimmy, as in Jimmy Baldwin, and who happened to be one of my favorite writers at the time. And he said, you know, Jimmy and I, and Jimmy, when he said I could go to his flat in the south of France anytime I want. So he spoke like that, you know, and this poem, for some reason, takes on his voice. It's called What I Tell My Students on the First Day of Class. When your professor is older than hip hop and tries to bust a move, chances are he will resemble an Australian break dancer. His hip may even hop and roll away like a hubcap. When your professor is older than hip hop and tries to bust that move he hasn't since back in the day was back in the day, and his back didn't bark like a junkyard dog or whine or wail like a cat on a hot tin roof, chances are he'll need you to call the paramedics or get a team of engineers to scrape his ass up off the floor with a spatula. All right. I gave this workshop today for the workshop poets for the Paterson Center that Maria runs. And the last prompt was one that I showed a series of 20 images, and they had to kind of write a poem off of each image. I mean, a line off of each image, and then that became the poem. I've been doing that prompt in my workshops for like decades, I believe. And but I never really did it myself. So one day I basically, a couple of years ago, I just did it. I just did the prompt. This one is a little on the longest side, so I extended it. It's called Crucible. What joy to dash along sun-splashed streets with French bread clutched underarm like a football, past pipers playing their flutes till the cows come home, to roost or roast like puns of mixed metaphors, only to arrive home to find your mum raise a rolling pin to your drunk dad's skull, a world of hate between them, riding their marriage of heaven and hell till the wheels come off, or until a flat-foot copper catches you stiff as a lamppost tied in knots. The curve, the nerve of such flighty space creatures with no sense of humor or humanity, but bent TV antennas for brains. Might as well put wheels on your heels and roll off into the sunset like an abandoned dream that caught a flat tire or ran out of gas. Oh, aren't we all just Darwinian monkeys, bespeckled bonobo, thinking we're so smart, with cars on our shoulders and a Sisyphean Herculean Superman nightmare parading around like chefs of the future, all dressed in white, like Muslim santeros drinking mama's milk from a bottle as the rest of the world stands idle. License plate on its ass, waiting for our close-up like Nora Desmond, only to be upstaged by a fat-ass climate change bee. Of course it stings like a dog you house and feed, whose poop you scoop only to have it bogart your bookshelves, forcing you to eat prefab TV dinners like white people in the 1950s thinking they're hip for sending Jesus out in an Uber to get their pizza when it's not even Super Bowl time. But Revelations, where dopey, cubicled Willie Loman rejects turn into pouty fish floating upstream like a spent sperm, or that scene in Planet of the Apes where Charleston Heston finds out he's not in Kansas anymore, or on another planet, but in New York. What the fuck did they expect when they stole all this land from people who fed them, housed them, and taught them to wipe their ass? Now you know what it means to be belly up like a dead fish in an oil spill, waiting to be gutted. When the situation occurred between the Israelis and the Palestinians vis-a-vis the Hamas group that kidnapped and terrorized some Israelis and also some Muslims and stuff, and took hostages and all that stuff. And then there was Netanyahu's response and things like that. My first reaction was to compose this poem. It's called 7 Steps to Heaven Haiku. If every bomb appeared in the sky a dove, shrapnel into rain, if vengeance vanquished from the cursed lips of weak men, an idea never taking root, if every tank vanish, if by chance a miracle, peace reclaims the land, if laughter broke out like wars fought with satire's pugilist punning, what room would be there for anger? What bitter root not allowed to stretch its tentacles through the hearts of men hardened by indifference? What will we bequeath our children, if not a world evermore human? And this one came to me on my birthday, which was last Friday. The Friday before last, January 10th was my birthday. And it's always great when you're able to write a birthday poem. So this one came to me that morning. in it's self-explanatory, I guess. Indifference. Can you tell them apart? Pacific Palisades from Palestinian broken hearts. The scorched earth rubble remains of the day, remains the same. One by nature's wrath, the other by next door, annihilate a friendly fire. What we don't desire about imperial capitalists, land-grabbing landowners and gentrifying insurance salesmen, fry cooks in the lobbies of the god-awful gilded oligarchical rich who see people as props and poles and profits. The story doesn't get old. Can you tell them apart? One torn apart by flames, licking and lapping tree-lined exclusive houses like buttered broccoli. The other masticated by basted bricks, bashed apart by US dumb bombs, by rabid Zionists elbowing their way into the vest pocket of a cheap three-piece suit already stolen, like the broke brick hearts of men, women, and children, displaced by the indifference of a world as hapless and hopeless as those trying to put out LA fires with colossal dragon-tongued forked lips, with a thimble of water. Can you tell them apart? Santa Ana winds passing over Skid Row sins. Can you tell Palestinians from Los Angelinos, Ukraine's scorched earth from Bosnia and the Panama deception, Mogadishu, Iraq, Afghanistan, Haiti, Rwanda from South Sudan, Gaza from Pompeii? Can you tell the earth is still the earth and not the 10th circle of Dante's hell? A couple of weeks, I guess last month, this guy went to New York City and shot and killed a CEO of a major insurance company. And just, it became like this big thing. It went viral. It was all over the place. And for some reason, I just absorb everything in the news, and then something comes out. And the title basically, of course, is leaning towards Joan Didion, but also, of course, William Butler Yeats. It's called Droning Toward Bethlehem. After that drone flew over my head, I can't stop sneezing. I can't stop wheezing. I can't stop blinking. My eyes won't stop twitching, itching, tearing. After that drone flew over my head, I can't seem to take a shower without running out wet and naked, as if imagining the shower scene in Psycho. Is the drone watching me as I sit on the bowl, scrolling through Instagram photos or crying about my paycheck or lack thereof? After that drone flew over my head, I can't stop thinking it's the IRS and they want to audit me because I tried claiming my dead parakeet Yaphet Kotto as a dependent, and I try every which way to cheat on my taxes because they take so much of my earnings when I still have yearnings to eat to survive. Can the drone see me wiping my ass? Can the drone pick up when I'm naughty or nice? Does it know I can't leap tall buildings in a single bound, but still wear a towel around my neck and rock old lady chanclas strutting in front of the mirror like I'm super vieja? Is it possible that the drone knows when I'm stealing cable or electricity from my next door neighbor, that I sometimes cheat when I'm playing spades, peeking at the hand of the person to the right of me? Will the drone take a shit on me like those strange pigeons making faces and straining like toddlers in angry Pampers, or bing me in the head with acorns like those frisky, fidgety, ornery squirrels fucking up my recycling bin, trying to play Budweiser cans like timbales? Bing, ding, 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 ding. Does the drone know the blow-up doll next to me in bed is not my wife? Can it see if I have dandruff, gray hairs, a bald spot, or head lice? Does the drone know I seldom say my Hail Marys, that I'd rather smoke a blunt to speak to Jesus? Well, obviously, That wasn't the poem I was setting up. This one was about those New Jersey drones that have been going around driving people crazy. And we know that was the government's drones, but that wasn't the poem I was actually trying to read, but I can't find it, so I'll just go on. This piece is called Broke Migrations of the Heart. After we eat the dogs, we wash them down with cats. That's just the law of the land, hand in hand. We wade through the water, keeping our daughter's head bobbing just above the waves. Fish flash by, swaying like flags at half staff. Things have come to this as we read all about the milk and honey. But what is funny is our backs never get wet. The sun dries it instantly, like roasted coffee, steaming, piping hot, goes good with monkey paws we find behind the bars they cage us in. And I want to read this piece. Oh, where is it? Where is it? This is a suite of poems that I wrote a couple of years back. When the kids were killed in that school in Texas, Uvalde, and the police force was very unprepared, I guess you could say, fearful because of the gunpowder this kid had. And the suite is called "Drowning in the Blood of Honey," and Uvalde is means honey basically. But this is from a child, age 10, Sammy Salazar. It's fictional, but representative of the kids that were killed, or the ones that survived. Sammy Salazar, age 10. I'm not Chris Rock or Kevin Hart. This is my journal. I get to tell my shitty jokes about this shitty place where kids are killed in school by maniacs who can get a gun easier than they can get a girlfriend. Like I said, this is my journal. It's where I write my little jokes, my ideas and drawings. My therapist says is the best way to let out my feelings about anything, but especially what happened last summer, just a few days before summer break. Yeah, we got a break all right. The back door of the school was broken. The glass window to the fire extinguisher was cracked open, a rifle butt. And of course, all the walls, doors, windows, and desks, not to mention my best friend's flesh shredded like confetti and Mrs. Tatangelo and practically everybody in my class. Blood was splashed everywhere. One girl even dipped her hand in her best friend's blood in order to smear all over herself and play dead. So much for celebrating being 10 and graduating to the fifth grade. If she hadn't watched that episode of The Walking Dead with her cousin and uncle, she would have never known to fake her own death and stop her breathing long enough for the crazed local evil gun asshole to walk by the room again. But not even the cops would barge in and save us. They were too chicken shit to go toe to toe with a teenager with practically a machine gun. All I heard was one girl trying to call 911 to get the cops to come save us, and our teacher shushing us to stay under our desks. Then the freaking gun nut, all dressed in black like an emo goth manga maniac, saying calmly, "You're all gonna die." That's all I hear at night when I'm trying to sleep. You're all gonna die. You're all gonna die. That and the nonstop bullets and the screams. The screams. Okay. This is a piece that I wrote for a book of mine. This was the introduction to a book I did called, a children's book called 13 Ways of Looking at a Black Boy. It happened to be republished in Kwame Alexander's anthology, This is the Honey, last year. And for some reason, it was mentioned on Morning Joe, and Kwame read a bit of it, and so it gave it a little bit of play. It's called Black Boys. And this was written during the time when there was so much violence happening with police brutality, and young Black people, people of color, and boys and girls, teenagers, men, women were getting killed by the police. And they were being paraded around the media and all this stuff 24/7, all of this, imagery and violence and stuff like that. And just in reactionary negative depictions of Black folks to kind of justify the police brutality and the police killings of these young people. And I just got fed up, and I just wanted, and people going on the air pleading to say, we're human, we're human, we're human. And I said, why do we have to always plead and say that we're human? We have to just be ourselves and just show it. So I wanted to do that in this poem. It's called Black Boys. Black boys scrape their knees, they bleed. Black boys cry and scream, they tackle life like air gliding on wind, basking in the breeze. Black boys sit beneath trees, inhale fresh cut grass and dream. Black boys play with building blocks, are fascinated by clocks, cradle scrape skateboards under their arms. Black boys love basketball and books, toss footballs and leaf through pages lost in stories and myths. Black boys love comic books and superheroes, are heroes to little sisters and brothers. Black boys love popcorn and watching movies, love their grandmas and grandpas. Black boys hug and kiss their moms and emulate their dads. Black boys wear their daddy's shoes and ties, smear shaving cream on their smooth faces, giggling in steamy mirrors. Black boys shine bright in sunlight, build snowmen and have snowball fights. Black boys study the stars, looking through telescopes, lie on their backs in tall grass, staring at the blanket of blue sky, at all the eyes smiling and twinkling down on them. Black boys like to hum and drum, bebop, hip hop, like to dance and sing, jazz and scream. Black boys are 3 dimensions of beauty. Black boys go to church, ride buses, go to school, sit on stoops, fly kites, shoot hoops. Black boys sit in their quiet and think about things. Black boys are made of flesh, not clay. Black boys have bones and blood and feelings. Black boys have minds that thrive with ideas like bees around the hive. Black boys are alive with wonder and possibility, with hopes and dreams. Black boys be bouquets of tonka bunched up like flowers. They be paint blotched into a myriad of colors across the canvases of our hearts. We celebrate their preciousness and creativity. We cherish their lives. And what's the time? 3:03. I did a graphic novel called I Am Alfonso Jones. I'm gonna just read these 2 pages, but I have it blown up a little bit so I can see the lines. It's about a 15 going on 16-year-old kid from the Bronx and Harlem named Alfonso Jones. He's a Black Puerto Rican kid who goes to this school for gifted kids, very talented, intelligent young people in Harlem. And he has a crush on a girl named Donetta, and on their way to Midtown Manhattan, out of the safe confines of his Black neighborhood, predominantly Black neighborhood, he goes to try to get to a department store to buy a suit, his first suit actually, because his father is being released from prison he was exonerated on DNA testing for, rape and murder, which he's been behind bars all of Alfonso's life. And so he's really excited about getting this suit and greeting his father, who's been proven innocent, and he's getting out of jail. And so in the process of that, he's killed accidentally by a police officer / security guard, who's moonlighting as a security guard. And that becomes the whole nature, the premise for the story. And so this is Alfonso's mother, basically, talking to a journalist. It's called Born to Trauma, and it's chapter 35 of the graphic novel. And her name is Cynthia Carmona. The graphics, Born to Trauma. He was my miracle boy, the one who almost didn't make it. Every time he left the house, I prayed. You don't know what a mother goes through. Dreamt I ripped that cop's eyes out, screamed and swung and scratched at his face and woke in a sweat, screaming, "What have you done? What have you done? What have you done to my beautiful baby boy? I'm not going to let you turn my son's death into a reality show episode. Every few weeks, every so many months, another black body at the hands of white police, black police, any old police. Here you come again, trying to parade us around TV, to cry on cue, cry out for a justice we never get. We're not going to tell you. We're not going to let you make a circus of our pain. Our black misery is not for your white amusement. Why do you think I fought to get my son into Henry Dumas? Because it was a school that was created from grassroots organizing and did not depend upon a curriculum that excluded his reality. Had that damn security guard cop, Officer Whitson, went to a school whose books reflected a broader reality than his narrow lily white mind, had movies, TV, whatever reflected that, maybe he would have seen my son as a teenager, as a person, as a citizen, as an American, as a human, and not something to be so easily, so rapidly, so wistfully disposed of. His girlfriend said he shot my baby like a deer, and all he was doing was buying his first suit. All he was doing was trying on a damn suit. I guess you got what you wanted. Okay, so I put out this book called Death with Occasional Smiling back in 2021. The title I had for the longest, so it just happened to coincide with the pandemic and the lockdown. But it also, I wrote this particular piece that I want to read when, at the end of Trump's years in office, that dastardly 2020 year, where he refused to get out. But this was written before that stunt that they pulled January 6th at the Capitol, at Congress. And so this is ironic that he's back in office. I didn't think he was going to be back in office, but I want to read this for the inauguration. It's probably going to end up being the same way anyway. It's called How It Will Finally Come to an End. Trump on the toilet like Elvis, mainlining dry beef burgers and hydroxychloroquine. Melania in the Lincoln bedroom, dousing it with Lysol and Clorox to mask the smell emanating from the bathroom. An alarm is tripped. Secret Service can be heard managing muffled screams as if as if kneed in the nuts. A sniper on the roof can be heard yelling as he falls into a burning bush. Protesters have breached the White House fence. Flames are everywhere. Trump doesn't even have time to wipe his ass or send up one last tweet before he falls on his bloated face with a turd the size of a 1973 Buick sticking out his ass. Melania rushes in with a PPE mask and is suddenly overcome by her husband's obnoxious fumes. She can only manage a be best between coughs. Trump is yelling to her to help him get the Lincoln log out of his ass as his face orange smears the cold white tiles. As Melania struggles with the turd cemented into her donkey's ass, protesters have lit the White House on fire. It resembles a tulip of flames. Melania finally comes to her senses and drags Trump by the turd in his lace front. She manages to drag his fat ass down the stairs, but is met by elves donning MAGA hats singing, "Oh, oh, Antifa, we could make it together." Melania, watching shit go up in flames, weighs her options, grabs a few furs, her jewelry, and Trump's credit cards and leaves him to be turned into a hobby horse for the MAGA elves. She chunks up the deuces to Trump crying and blubbering like a bloated baby and says, "Be best," and bounces with the last and loneliest Secret Service agent left standing. When we were on lockdown, on global lockdown for the global pandemic, I noticed that they showed images on the news and stuff of places like Venice in Italy and stuff like that, and how the water waves were all clear and you could see the fish and all this, all this life form and stuff like that. It was so beautiful. And because human beings were on lockdown and we had to curb our behaviors, and the earth was able to take a little bit of a break and breathe a little, and there was clean water everywhere and stuff like that. So I kind of like wrote about that. Even the skies in LA were kind of like clear. Oh, Maria, do we have more time? What time are we finished?
You read this one, and then I think that's it, honey. It's already supposed to finish at 3. It's 3:12.
Oh, I didn't know that. Only a half an hour reading? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, then I want to change and I want to read something else.
Okay, read something. And read what you would normally want to finish with.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna finish with one from. Since you mentioned My Old Man Was Always on the Lam, I'll finish with
Such a wonderful book.
The bulk of these poems were written when I was studying with Maria Gillen at Binghamton University. And I took a few years to kind of like tweak them and write them. This piece that I want to read is called Arrival. I had been estranged from my mother for quite some time, and she took ill, and I and kind of was abandoned, and I took care of her last year. And it was good that I waited to finish the book, having spent that one last year with her, because I learned a lot about my story and filled in some of the blanks, and it became, a fuller, more rich book. I think it's very self-explanatory. So they had her in, she was staying with someone in Florida, and they were getting ready to kind of put her somewhere, and she wouldn't have anybody to take care of her or whatever. And I said, send her to me. And so this is called Arrival. Steroids turned my mother's hair from black to white in less than a year. My mother's family would have loved for that to happen to the skin my sister inherited from her father, an anonymous Black doctor donor from Baltimore my mother got with to feed her fix. My sister's voice and my mother's colliding in my head as I think about the July day I picked my mother up at Reagan National. She left her common law husband after 30 years. He'd leave her home tied to an oxygen tank and go off to Puerto Rico and take up with another woman who could cook and clean and cater to his needs. Everything my mother did for him and work at Walmart and clean office buildings on the side where she thinks she got pulmonary fibrosis, inhaling chemicals for 20 years, scarring her lung tissue into dry sponges. He kept pushing her to sign away her half of their house. A broke down, aging narcissist finally met his match. He must have forgotten that she was street smart and he a compromise with her ego. How a woman settles for a man out of some survival instinct. I can't believe I allowed this man to keep me from my daughter for all these years, she tells me. You lost a lot of time, I say, trying to return my sister's favor and bring them back together. Curbside at US Airways' arrival terminal. My mother's in a wheelchair looking tired and helpless, an airline oxygen tank strapped to the back of the wheelchair. She's in a white and blue flower print blouse and navy knit slacks and the white shoes of someone that lives on an island near water and sun. I hand her a yellow bouquet and a green oxygen tank to add to her great escape curbside wheelchair portraiture. Within a week, she is in the ICU at Bethesda General, holding the hand of a dying woman 20 years her senior, assuring her everything is going to be fine, just fine. Her life continuing to be a Fellini film, even as it rolls on to the credits and the word fini. Months later, I'm wheeling her around the mall, the rehab center's wheelchair giving my 40-year-old back a first-time golfer's workout. The nurse on graveyard shift who pumps her full of steroids and late-night diabetic snacks says to me, she's gained a few pounds. I want to say, no shit. Instead, I say, yeah, and her hair is getting whiter. I'm taking her out on the town to get her hair cut and nails done. Then a rare picture together, and then a late lunch. All the shrimp I'm allergic to she can eat. I'm toasting her girls' night out with a glass of red wine, and in the middle of our dinner, her oxygen tank runs out. I'm off to the parking lot trying not to panic. I come running back to the table with the second one, trying to figure out how to work the valve. Somehow, the gods have aligned themselves on this sunny September Saturday afternoon. I used to work at a hospital, the waiter says, teaching me the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey routine. My mother's breathing, never skipping a beat. In a couple of months, we will sit down and have our first Thanksgiving together, where she will tear up the duck, unlike an old woman with a bad heart, diabetes, kidney problems, bronchitis, and a third of her lung capacity. But she paces herself, and the burning logs on the fireplace light up her face. She finally tells me what happened the night she gave birth to me, how the doctor was without answers to why I was so sick, screaming uncontrollably from the womb of an incubator. I finally broke down and told him I was on drugs, she says. I was scared, but I had to tell him I didn't want anything to happen to my beautiful baby boy. Relieved, the doctor turns and tells her, thank you, Miss Gonzalez. You just saved your son's life. Thank you.
Wonderful, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Thanks, Tony. That was wonderful. I loved hearing you, and I loved hearing the new poems. And I love what you did with that poem. I remember the poem, but it was a slightly different shape when you were at Binghamton. So I love what you did with it. And thank you for being so open and honest and reading those poems, which had to be very hard to read.
Yeah.
I love your political stuff too. It's not ranting. It's just, I think many of us are feeling quite despairing at this point. So I think it's good to hear those poems for us. Anyway, thank you. I'm sorry that we didn't remind you yesterday, but you pulled it off as you always do. And so you were wonderful. And could we unmute ourselves and give them a round of applause?
Thank you.
Yay, wonderful, wonderful.
That was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Incredible.
much.
That was fantastic.
Thank
Yay.
Absolutely.
Made me cry again, Tony.
I'm sorry.
You used to make me cry in class, but you also always made me laugh. You're very funny. So I appreciate your being with us. And I'll see you again another time.